So today we'll be graphing quadratic functions in vertex form. We just got done graphing in standard form, and now we're going to use the vertex form. Vertex form is really similar to using graphing absolute value functions because we deal with a, h, and k. So the vertex form of a quadratic is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So if we can identify our h, and k, we can figure out what the vertex is, we can figure out what the axis of symmetry is, and we can go ahead and graph. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's figure out what our and k is. So if we do this, we are my a here is the number multiplied in front. Well, that's a 1 since it's not listed here. My h is always opposite, so it is positive 1. And then my k here is going to be a negative 3. So my vertex, just like for absolute value, is h comma k, so my vertex here is 1 comma negative 3. And I can go ahead and graph that right away. So I'm going to go positive 1, negative 3, and put my point. Now my a is 1, so I know that my graph is facing upward. It also asks me to give the axis of symmetry, so I can do that right away. Since I know my vertex, my axis of symmetry is just the x of that vertex, so it's x equals 1. The axis of symmetry is the line that goes through the vertex, the vertical line. So it's that vertical line that goes through the vertex. So this is the line x equals 1. So now I need to find some additional points that would be able to help me to graph this function. I'm going to start by trying to find out what my y-intercept is because it's a really easy point to plug in for x to solve for y. So my y-intercept always has the x being 0. So if I plug in 0 for x and figure out y is, I can then find that point. So I'm going to do 0 minus 1 squared minus 3. And I get here 0 minus 1, that's negative 1. Squared minus 3. Negative 1 squared is just 1. And 1 minus 3 gives me a negative 2. So my my y-intercept is 0 comma negative 2. So I can go ahead and plot that point at 0 and then negative 2. Because I know my axis of symmetry, then I can go ahead and reflect that point over the line. 1, 2, and then 1, 2. If I want to, I could find possibly another coordinate here. I could plug in something else to be my x and then figure out my y. So let's just do one more point just to be safe here. Let's plug in negative 1 for x. So here I'm going to have y equals negative 1 minus 1 squared minus 3. And this gives me negative 1 minus 1. Well, that's negative 2 squared minus 3. Negative 2 squared is 4. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So now I know another point on my parabola is the point negative 1 comma 1. So if I go to negative 1 on my x and up to 1 on my y, I can put that point there. And then again, I can reflect this over the axis of symmetry. So it is 1, 2 from the axis of symmetry. So if I go 1, 2 in the opposite direction and put my point, then I have a reflected point. Now I can go ahead and draw my parabola by sketching through those points. Okay, now I've sketched my parabola and I've completed the problem. The next problem type says, use the information provided to write the standard form of the equation for each parabola. So this is currently in vertex form. Remember that the standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So that means I really need to go ahead and simplify this as much as I can by going ahead and FOILing, multiplying out this equation. So let's go ahead and do that. So here I have y equals negative 2 times the x plus 7 squared minus 3. So order of operations applies here when I'm trying to write this in standard form. So I need to take care of this squared first. So I need to do the x plus 7 squared. Now remember that I cannot just distribute that in. That's not the same. X plus 7 squared is really the same as x plus 7 times x plus 7. And what I do here is I'm going to have to FOIL to go ahead and multiply those two binomials. So when I do that, this negative 2 stays in the front, and I'm going to just put a new parentheses in. So I have x times x, that becomes x squared. X times 7, that's 7x. 7 times x, that's 7x. And then lastly, 7 times 7, that's 49. And then here I have the minus 3. So inside here, I'm going to combine like terms before I distribute the negative 2. So I should have x squared plus 14x plus 49. Again, order of operations takes over, and I have to distribute before I can subtract. So I'm going to distribute in this negative 2. And then this becomes negative 2x squared minus 28x minus 2 times 49, that's 98. And then I have minus 3. So lastly, I need to combine my like terms here, subtracting that 3. So negative 98 minus 3, well, the front part doesn't change. Negative 2x squared, there's no combining of like terms here, minus 28x. But I go ahead and combine this. Negative 98 minus 3 is negative 101. So here I have gone ahead and multiplied my binomials. That's how I simplified the squared and wrote it all down into standard form. Ax squared plus bx plus c. And this is my final answer. If you have any questions, please see Mr. Daniels. And if not, enjoy the rest of your homework.